Hey, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Micah Foster. You are listening to or watching from the Garoffice with Micah Foster, where we talk about all things about innovating the church to meet the needs of the culture, and especially in a time where many of us are not able or are not supposed to meet in person. We have been doing a lot of things online. So the tagline for this podcast is faith in the digital space. Now, obviously, it translates into the physical, but it's kind of fun to say it that way. So this conversation today is with Jon Silva, a pastor and planter up in Salem, Oregon. I had him early on in the podcast, but this is an update on what's been going on. So I hope you enjoy. Hey, thanks, Jon, for hanging out with me today. Really, Jon, we had you early on the podcast, last year in 2020. As the pandemic was starting, as everything was shutting down, restrictions were happening, and everybody was innovating. And so I wanted to do a quick kind of catch up, like where are you guys at? What have you learned? What do you see for the future? All those sorts of things. But for anybody who has not been introduced to you before, give us some context for your life and ministry.
Yeah. Well, we're up in Salem, Oregon, and we started a church called Cross Creek Community Church 3.5 years ago. And started with we called it attractional missional model of let's make a church for people who don't normally go to church, and show people what the love of Jesus really is. And so I grew up a pastor's kid, and I was a teacher for 6 years, a middle school teacher, and then God said, "Stop running. It's time to do what you always said you were going to do and be a pastor." So became a youth pastor, and then we were sent out to plant a church. And I would say for Cross Creek, really what's guided us through COVID and before and now is the whole, which we got from Jeff Henderson, the whole for idea of being, often the church is known for what it's against. We want to be known for what we're for. And God is for Salem, and so are we. And so Every decision we do is hopefully filtered through that idea that we want to be for our neighbors. And it doesn't always
I can see it. It's on you. You're wearing it. You wear it well.
I didn't do that on purpose. This is just a really comfortable sweatshirt.
Yeah, right. I didn't do that on purpose.
Available at yourcrosscreek.com for only.
Yeah, exactly. If you're in the Salem area,
right,
it makes sense.
So,
Salem,
yeah, we're having fun and we're getting beat up at the same time. So it's ministry, man.
I think everybody's having that experience. There are certain things that people are like, wow, this is exciting. And there's certain things that people are like, this is killing me. There's both things going on. So,
For sure.
So you guys made some changes early on in the pandemic. You guys started a sort of like a show, a YouTube show, and it was called Your Cross Creek or For Salem? I can't remember.
Together for Salem.
Together for Salem. Yourcrosscreek.com is the website, right? Is that right?
That's the website, yeah.
Okay.
And that's the YouTube Your Cross Creek.
Gotcha. So Together for Salem. And it was very intentionally, I felt it was very approachable, conversational, not talking down, but let's sit down and dialogue sort of thing. And so how has that evolved over this past year?
Yeah. It got shorter for one.
So how long did it start as?
Man, I think we were at 40 to 50 minutes the first
Okay.
two.
Yeah.
Because we wanted, our church services had always been our Sunday services. We always tried to make it fun. And so we'd have little extras or games or intros or that type of thing. And so we tried to keep that. And then, so we would do an intro, a game that people would watch. I don't know why we thought that would be fun to watch. The teaching, which would be like 40 minutes long. And then sometimes even an interview after that to go with it. And actually, I think when we recorded the last time, we were in the process of saying that is too much. And so we cut that down. And now all we have is a short intro with our hosts, who are amazing. They're my favorite part of the show. And then I try to keep my message to 20 minutes. It should probably be even shorter than that. And then we have an outro. And that's it. And if we're going to do extras, we usually do it as like a bonus feature midweek or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So not even as a part of that broadcast or that video, but it goes out separately.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And we haven't done that in a while. We're really trying to fine tune just our main episodes and get those really fine tuned. And so the idea was, since we were all separated at the very beginning of COVID, this is why we came about with the name. Even people need to be together, but we can't be. So the idea was almost watch parties for our small groups. So watch this either separately or with your group, and then talk about it with the questions we provide at the end of the episode. And it's been going pretty good for most groups. And there's people are screened out, they say, and I personally don't understand it, but I'm trying to understand how that works and trying to be gracious. And the next pandemic, I'm going to kill it because I'm learning so much about people.
That's hilarious, man. I understand there's the Zoom fatigue thing and all that, that has become a term and something we think about now. Wasn't so much a thing because people in select circles were using that, not everybody. Right. And it has replaced, for some people, their all their social interaction. And so that's why I think they're just like, they want social interaction in person. However, for the rest of their life, they don't mind being on a screen.
Don't get me started on that, man. If you have screen fatigue, give me your TV. I could use a new TV.
Yeah, so that's it. I think it has more to do with it's because it's replaced for some people their in-person interaction than that they're actually screened out.
No, I think that's a great insight.
They just don't like relating to their personal friends that way, unless it's like while playing Call of Duty or something like that. You got
an activity you're doing, yeah.
Unless you're saving the world, in a fictitious way. I mean, my son is Fortnite. Every day he has some new information for me about Fortnite. Hey, they came out with this new skin. Hey, you can do this now. Hey, now they have the Mandalorian and there's bounties and you can, I'm like,
really? I got to get Fortnite.
Yeah, it's my wife looks at me and she just goes, that's a lot of words for this early in the morning, and it's a lot of words about things I don't understand. It's kind of how she looks at me. And so I am the one who engages in that conversation because at least I have some interest, but he's all about it. And I think that's true for a lot of people. Maybe
it's a generational thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I take all of that back. I don't think it's a generational thing because my parents are part of our church and they're in their 70s and they are in charge of a small group, or they facilitate a small group, and their group's killing it right now. And our restrictions are technically 6 people only of 2 family groups, and please don't do that. It's kind of how they are, right? And so we're trying to honor that. And so some of our groups are in person. We let adults decide for themselves, but we say if you're meeting in person, just don't put our name on it. But the experienced people's group, they're meeting online and having a good time and like connecting, and it's really interesting to watch. Just I don't know how different people interact with this medium.
What's really interesting, I lead a small group on Thursday nights, and we started it online after everything happened, right? Brand new group. Yeah, I had just handed off a group. I had just started a new group that met once, and then it was like, oh, by the way, you can't meet. And all those people said, I don't want to do online, and we can't do in person. So they just didn't join a group. So then I started a new group. and those people have stayed engaged and with the group pretty much the whole time for almost a year now. And it's really interesting because sometimes there's a single mom in the group. Sometimes she's working or she's driving around in her car. She's got the phone set up in the seat next to her, and she's not
the same thing
chiming in a whole lot, but she's with us and she's hearing and she's tracking with us. And at the end, she's usually got something to say or whatever. And so, what I found, and I've said this in previous episodes of the podcast, but what I found is the small group right now is way less structured than any small group I've ever led.
Yeah.
There's more free-flowing conversation. There's more, hey, I was thinking about this, or I read this in my reading. There's a lot more flexibility in it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take as much headspace for me or for them to prepare for it or to create the environment for it, because we're all about like having a nice environment for it. So
Yeah.
it's a lot simpler, I guess, in how we're able to do that right now.
Would you say it's more meaningful that way too? Like, are you kind of finding that? It's a leading question.
Yeah, it
I'm
is a
hoping you
leading
say
question.
yes.
I think I've had meaningful small groups in person, and I've had them online. I think it's different, but I think we're serving a different group of people right now who most of them would not be able to come, even if everything was open, into a physical small group because they have small kids or they've got
Right.
jobs that are very demanding. And so I'm sitting here going, well, I think we always have to have this option, no matter what.
That's kind of what we're seeing too. So the group I'm leading right now, it formed only online. We had gotten halfway through a starting point group, North Point starting point group.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit and we said, well, do you want to like keep doing this online or just pause it until this is over? Which we thought, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
We'll
exactly.
re-meet.
14 days.
Yeah.
Don't gather for 14 days, guys.
We can do that. That's fine. Oh, these 2 weeks off are nice. Right. And then we basically took half of those people and put some other people together and made this group. We met in person a little bit, and then things got more strict, and we've been online. And for me personally, it's been the most interactive group I've ever had. Like, I'm getting 5 texts a day from this group with prayer requests and encouragement and stuff. And that has never happened in a group for me before. And like you said, less structured. Another thing, probably a pivot. That's our word for the season. We pivoted from like 5 questions for our groups to talk about and very guided and, study oriented to only 3 questions. Most of them like, what do you think?
Yeah.
So you watched John's episode, you watched the message and you read the passage. What do you think? What bothered you? And that one question will take 2 hours of the night because people can take it anywhere they want. And we're allowed to go with where their hearts are leading or what they're struggling with, but it also is connected to the main topic of the night. So it's been really interesting. I've learned a lot about just leading groups through this, I think, too.
Interesting.
Kind of let things flow a little bit smoother.
Yeah. So one of the things, like our group, we're not going through a specific study seasonally together. And I just finished a series, right? A message series. So January was love thy neighbor. Pretty simple, right? We just talked about the greatest command, we need to love each other, all that kind of stuff. And then on the last week, I took some passages out of 1 John. And then I thought, I bet most of these people have never read 1st, 2nd, or 3rd John. And there's only 7 chapters between all 3 of them. So I was like, let's do a reading challenge. So I try to find these challenges to get them to continue to do something every week. And so last Sunday was, hey, every day this week, we're going to read 1 chapter from 1st, 2nd, or 3rd John. And then so when it comes to small group time, I'm like texting in the morning, hey, we'll see you tonight. Let's talk about whatever questions you have so far from reading 1 John 1 through 5, And so then it comes in and a couple, some people don't do the challenge, right? That always happens.
Yeah.
But some people do. And so they guide the conversation. This is what we're thinking. So then we're in there, we're talking about it. And then we're talking about how it applies to life. But it's been I think it's been a fun season. Because I think in the beginning, I was doing, okay, we're going to watch this video together and then we're going to talk about it, which I'll do one of those every once in a while.
Sure.
But they don't want to watch another video. They want to have a conversation.
They want interaction. They want relationship.
So,
and I mean, so that's kind of where my mind has been headed as a leader of a church, is that just feels more natural, more kind of how we're made than doing like a study, right? Of, okay, let's do a Bible study and get into the deep theology of it all and stuff. But no, let's read it, let's talk about it and apply it to our lives and talk about each other's life. And for me, that's been the most fruitful experience that I've had in a small group, I think.
Right.
It's just like taking the rules off of it and the structure off of it and saying, hey, we're just people. We're not in a classroom. I'm not your Bible professor.
Right.
Let's just talk. It's been great.
Our group is also, a couple in the group is going to lead a virtual Financial Peace University
nice
thing. And so last night we're talking, and I'm like, who in this group might be interested in joining that one too? And everyone's like, yeah, I would. So I'm like, well, then let's just do it at this time and invite other people in and not have 2 commitments for you. So they were like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, it'll just be for a short amount of time. It'll be, and then we'll do something else. So it's very flexible. It's very,
that's a good word.
And I think that's a good thing for us. So what do you see for the future of maybe not all church, but for your church, the church you are leading? What are you looking down the road going, this might be where we're headed after the restrictions are lifted? How might things look?
That's the question that's been really dangerous for me lately.
Let's get into the danger zone. Yeah. Come on. Give me the danger.
And I think the way you phrase that question is a perfect setup too. What does the future look like for our church, for our local context? And that's something that I think a lot of us, the way we were trained in ministry and whatnot, is to see what our heroes are doing and try to implement that with our own flavor into our context. And for us, though I am still a huge proponent of the methods and the thinking that you and I are a part of, I think for Salem and for Cross Creek, it's going to probably look different. And it scares me because I don't know exactly where we're going. It frustrates other people because I don't know exactly where we're going, and it angers some people because I don't know exactly where we're going. And it's been a year, and I still don't know exactly where we're going. But you think about it, that's life, right? You just take a step and deal with what comes, and you got Jesus with you, and you can handle it. So all of that to say, I don't know where we're going, but it is what we're looking at is stepping away from doing things the same way we, and by we I mean the American church, has done it for the last 20 years. We said we were a different kind of church, a church where people don't normally go to church. But when you would show up to our service, it's just like every other church. 3 songs, a message, and then maybe a closing song or something like that. And then go to your small group and serve once a week. And you've checked your Christian check boxes and you're good to go. And I think the hidden messages in that is kind of like what I said. Christianity is just these simple tasks and you're set. And the thing that really got me thinking was, and it was hard, watching some people that were core people before COVID really, really struggle with leadership decisions, really struggle in their personal faith because they didn't have a weekly church service. And somehow I had failed as, the guy planting this church to equip them for when their church service is gone, because, depending on your theological bent, someday that might be gone. And for most of Christianity, that was not an option. So I have not prepared people or trained people that your faith is your life. It is not, I guess hobby is a harsh word, but the church is not a dispenser. Yeah, and the church is not a dispenser of religious services. The church is you wherever you are. And so we're looking at what that looks like. I'll do a plug for this book that I get no money for. But this has been our guide lately, Future Church, Will Mancini, who, it's interesting, if you're a Carey Nieuwhof fan, he writes in the back a little blurb for it, and then Will goes and kind of critiques Carey pretty harshly, which is, I thought, really cool of Carey and Will that they're willing to do that with each other. But it's this idea that program church has kind of come and gone its route. The attractional model is kind of going out. I was thinking about it. It's kind of like this analogy is going to break down pretty quickly. But Andy Stanley likes to say, marry your mission and date your model, right?
Yeah.
Which, if you're married, you shouldn't be dating a model, was always my knee-jerk answer to that. But
that sounds very Old Testament right there.
Right? It's kind of like we were dating a certain model of church. And before COVID, we kind of had these feelings of maybe this isn't the one for me. Like maybe I'm putting more into this than I'm putting more into this relationship than she is, right? This model. And then COVID came and we kind of broke up. And at first, a lot of us were like, oh, I miss them so much. But then we kind of realized, you know what? They weren't that good for me, and I'm kind of better off without them. There's a whole future open up. And now it feels like that church model wants to get back together. And I'm saying, I'm not so sure we should do that. Like opening back up and going right back to how things were. I don't think that's the way to go. One thing Will Mancini says in the book is, I'll paraphrase, if 80% of your time, energy, money, effort goes into a Sunday service, are you a church or a production company? I was like, oh man, that
Wow.
kind of hit home. And then the other thing that just really floored me was, for church planters, did you plant a church hoping disciples would come out of that, or did you plant disciples hoping a church would grow out of that? And I would honestly have to say we probably planted a church with a church service in a certain model, hoping disciples would come out of that, so the other way around. And I think starting with disciple first will grow the type of church that is going to be needed in the future. So, I mean, that's a lot of, those are more, I think I have more questions than answers right now. But I get frustrated when I don't have questions. So I think that's good.
I think one of the things, I have a word of the year. I've mentioned this before as well. And it's clarity, right? I'm seeking some clarity because it's felt so muddy, because it's felt so foggy. And then you think about verses that talk about vision, like where there is no vision, the people perish. And we need to be careful to separate the vision from the model or the method, I guess, because the vision remains the same.
Right.
And so I think some people get that a little bit confused. And so then it really causes them to struggle with change and how you're going to accomplish that vision. And when people struggle with that change, they go, wait a second, this isn't what I signed up for. I signed up for the service, meaning the services you could provide.
Yeah. Me
and my family, not necessarily the mission or the vision that you're trying to accomplish. And that
it's not
brings
their fault either.
Yeah.
Because that's how we've trained them.
Yeah, exactly. But that also brings some clarity as to why perhaps they weren't catching what we were trying to put down. They weren't picking it up. That phrase.
Yeah.
Are you picking?
We had to keep saying it over and over, and like, wait, what are you talking about? It's like, it's been 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. So Chad Clemens, who is we're in different coaching groups, and he's our coach in different coaching groups with the North Point network of churches. He has mentioned you several times. He's mentioned you guys going through the Future Church thing. Yeah. And he also mentioned something about you guys utilizing a physical space for some small group stuff. Maybe it's under the radar. In sort of in a bar or something like that.
Pub church. We talked about that last time, I think. Yeah.
Yes, but I think you were talking about the possibility of it before. Have you guys done anything with that?
No. I know that's really exciting for viewers. No, we've done nothing with that because.
No, hey, that's good because I'm talking about ideas, successes, and failures. Right. And so this still remains as an idea on the shelf. So maybe someone will hear it and they'll be like, "Oh, let's do that," and then you could be like, "Oh, I had."
No, I don't want them to do that. I want them to be like, "Hey, that's a great idea. I'm going to finance that for them." So that's our issue. Is we don't have a space. We have a building that we were renting before. There's 2 other churches that meet here, so it's getting kind of difficult with cleaning and all that kind of stuff. And we don't have. We're a 3-year-old church plant. We don't have much money whatsoever to even find our own space. I would love to renovate a restaurant and make it into something that's used throughout the week, like a coffee shop or a library or both, or a pub. And then also in the evenings or weekends or whatever, offer this small group discussion type space.
That feels very Northwest of you to say, I would like to renovate a library or a pub or a coffee shop.
Or all 3.
Hey,
yeah, you got to know your context, man.
Yeah.
So that is, we want to get away from the church building. We want to get into the community and the neighborhoods. but not just have our own building that is used once a week. Our own space is something we've been praying about for 3 years, and God has not made it happen whatsoever. And so we're thinking maybe that's not where we're supposed to go. We're supposed to get more nomadic. And so one of the ideas that's being kicked around, if you like say, hey, what are you guys thinking about your future, is once a month we would have and we've been trying this out drive-in style, but once a month have a party, basically, where that's our worship service. And so we have music, and maybe we have stories of how God's been working in people's lives. We have baptisms. And maybe I do a short little message, but maybe not. And we have that once a month. That's our big service where all the groups get together and see each other and see that they're part of something bigger. And then 2 weeks after that, so kind of an every other week thing, we do some type of community service thing together, which isn't a new idea. But for around here in this community, it kind of is. But the idea would be that the place where we would do the community service is also where we would have our worship service. And so it would be we'd be helping the community and then saying, hey, here's the people who helped that, and here's what we believe. You can totally come party with us and maybe even have a beer while you hang out.
So there's more of a we've kicked around ideas like that as well. Yeah. Even pre-pandemic, we kicked around ideas like that. Yeah. In fact, people left our church because we were just talking about ideas like that.
It gets scary.
It is scary.
It happened to us too.
It is scary. I mean, and specifically people who came saying, I like what you give me, right? Yes. I like what you give me. I'm subscribed here because of what you provide for me. And if you change that formula, I'll see you later. Right. I can go get that somewhere else, which is true. They certainly can. But this nomadic / pop-up sort of pop-up in different places, that starts getting interesting, I think. And that's definitely different, because you don't see a lot of that. You see some of that, and you don't see a lot of that that's been that's been grown like crazy or anything like that. I mean, there's a lot of limitations to it. One of the things that I think is the hardest is helping people understand how you can continue to disciple your children in a church like that. And that's I think
what we're dealing with.
I think the problem for me, I think that what I'm realizing is most families don't take discipling their children personally. It's a service they subscribe to from their local church, but they don't take any response. It's kind of like, we send our kids to public school. We do, personally. Not everybody does that. We do, expecting a certain result. Right. And sometimes we have to jump in and help, and it's frustrating because we're like, we're not teachers, and so I get the mindset. It would be the same thing with a sport. If my son wants to play baseball, I'm not an expert. I never played. We got family members who have played professionally and things like that. They can help guide them. But if I try to be the guide for him, he's going to have the wrong kind of swing and stance and throw. Okay, it's just not going to work right. And everyone's going to look at it and go, you're teaching him wrong. So I get the feeling of the expert is the teacher. Right. I understand that. But when it comes to spiritual matters, right, we should all be growing in that. If you claim to follow Jesus.
You've been tapping my phone, because that's exactly what we've been talking about.
No, it's just common. I think a lot of people, anybody who's thinking about doing something different, number one question, what about my kids? Yeah. Number one question.
So one of the ideas we have with that, which again requires space, and because online is hard for kids, and that's obvious. They don't want to sit here and look at this and talk. They want to do things. It would require space, but instead of Sunday school, or drop the kids off and mom and dad goes to their service and kids go to their service, in this idea that we're thinking of, and it's only thinking, have a midweek. It's almost like an Awana thing, but not Awana. This midweek thing for kids where the parents can come and have small groups with kids, but we also have this big worship time with it too. So it's more of, we're not going to be looking for kids workers, because it'll be the parents. And maybe we offer adult small groups at the same time for those who need that. See, like I said, it's all ideas out there. But having a once a week thing for kids, I think, is still a great idea. I think if you do the right model of it's a mentoring thing and not a show thing or whatever, just get it more personal. And if we could focus more energy on that instead of trying to keep their parents happy with the Sunday show, I think it'd be even more effective.
There's a lot of ways you could go with that. There's a lot of possibilities there. I think the hard thing is in it. What's been great about not having our own facility during this time is obviously cost savings. We're not worrying about anything about a building. We don't have a contract with anybody. The place we're meeting at has since signed up with a new church plant.
Oh, wow.
You're
completely homeless.
During COVID. Now, we could still go back there when they open up if we wanted to. But, it's first come, first served. You can book out a year. So there's a new church plant that plans to go in there when they open. And there was already another church meeting in another part of the building at the same time. So it just gets a little crowded and confusing.
Yeah.
Now I'll say that we're the only ones with any signs. So people would always ask us where to go. And we would absolutely, our host team would absolutely walk people down to the other end of the building. Hey, this is where you're looking for them. Great. God bless you. Have a great day. So we served both places. I don't think they had any idea we were doing that. Except for the people that were visiting. But it gets a little confusing when you're in there. So, yeah, man, it's a lot of possibilities. And for us, not having a facility has been a blessing during this time. So I absolutely understand why God had not allowed us to continue to lease a building that we were in before.
Could you imagine?
We were in a building for a year that was bleeding us dry. And it was too small for us. We thought we could sort of do this. We thought we had it figured out to where it would work well, and it worked okay, but it worked good for people who were already a part of the church, and it did not work well for guests, is basically what I'm getting at. So I like the idea of going away from the church building and doing those sorts of things. One of the things I think, as we think about kids, we'll go back to that, as I think about my own kids. Now, part of our rhythm is that, every night, either Maya or my wife puts each of our kids to bed. And in that process, we have a prayer that we say with them. It's different. They may say it. We may say it. It's not a specific prayer. It's just praying in the evening. And then there are specific things that we call secrets that I started doing with my oldest son when he was born every night, telling him certain things. So that the list is expanded. So it's quite a creed almost that we have created for our family. And so there's certain things we tell them every night. And basically when I put my youngest to bed, I'm like, are you going to say the prayer or the secrets? And he chooses one. And we do that with each of our kids. And so they can repeat the things. And part of the thing that I say or me or my wife says in there is that I love you. I'm proud of you. I can't wait to see the man or woman you grow up to be as part of the thing. And so when they say it, they say, I love myself. I'm proud of myself. It's kind of funny how they do that. Or they've turned it around and flipped it around and said, I love you. I'm proud of you. And I can't wait to see the grandpa you grow up to be, or something like that. It's kind of funny. But that's part of our discipleship of our kids is having these routines of reinforcement of these truths that we know. The greatest commandment is in that. There's some things in there from Scripture. But then there's also, sometimes we'll talk about, I'll have a certain question at dinner. We talk about something spiritual, or someone will say something. My oldest son said something about a mustard seed. He was like, I didn't know mustard seeds were real. And so then I'm like, that reminds me of a verse. And so I bring out, when Jesus talks about faith as small as a mustard seed, and we talk about it, and it provides sort of impromptu discipleship.
That's exactly what we're talking about. It's every day, all day discipleship, and it's. I know I'm interrupting you, and I'm sorry. It's your show. But when we talk about, it's not just the Sunday thing. Like, you don't get your participation points on Sunday. It's throughout your life. That's what we are, because we do the same thing. We don't have the creed, which is awesome. But we have a routine, a rhythm that we have with our kids. It's an everyday discipleship thing that we are doing with our kids that I want, everybody who comes in contact with us and says they're a Jesus follower to be doing not just with their kids, but with their coworkers and their family and their friends and their softball teammates and all of that. Like that's if you said, where are we going? That's my target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's great. I was just going to say part of our routine too is that we utilize online, shows geared at kids through our curriculum provider, right? So Orange Rethink. I've got a street sweeper coming by. This is the from the Garoffice moment right here. This is where it gets real. On Wednesdays, it's bad because all the neighborhood like gardeners come by and mow the lawns and stuff. So I can't do any recording on Wednesdays. It's all day long. Actually, there's one that comes on Friday in a little bit too. I forgot about.
We'll talk louder.
Yeah, exactly. But part of it, so we utilize videos from the Orange Rethink group, who many churches utilize for their children's curriculum. It's great curriculum, but they create age-centric shows every week, and so as a family, at some point, sometimes it's not even on Sunday. At some point, usually it is, but sometimes it's a different day of the week. We sit down and we watch the one that's geared at like fifth graders, fourth and fifth graders. Now, not all my kids are in that age bracket, but instead of watching 3 different shows, we just decided to aim at my oldest son, street sweeper, and do that. So that's a piece of it for us, and we enjoy it. Now, sometimes they want me to fast forward the singing and dancing because they think it's goofy. Sure. And sometimes I get up and do it to make them embarrassed. So you have to. You're just depends on the day. But then the thing that I think is the biggest kicker here is when you talk about sort of a different structure and a different pattern for how your church operates, meets, comes together. When you talk about going and serving the community, I think that brings some flesh to what you're talking about around the dinner table. Yes, at night at bring bedtime.
Your kids with you. Yep.
And they're involved. They're involved.
Oh, yeah.
So for us, how do we put into the rhythm of our family and our church of serving the community? And when we have an in-person service that mostly serves ourselves, we want it to serve the community, but they don't all come to it, right? That the dream is that you got droves of guests and they are coming and you get to serve them all. But in reality, that happens for like the largest churches, which is great and I love it. But for us, we don't have droves of guests coming every week.
Right.
And so for us to say, okay, instead of putting all the energy into this service, why don't we take all this energy that we would put into that and put it into an investment into the community? That's the 4 idea. That's repositioning your energy for greater impact, all that kind of stuff. So I think all those things together is sort of a mesh of discipleship strategies that is a better picture or more complete picture for our kids than just come to this program and learn.
Well, I agree. And it's been hitting me again that as a youth pastor, I was a good youth pastor, man. But as most youth groups, those kids graduate and go to college. And I would say 50-50, maybe 60% don't stay with Jesus, at least for a significant amount of time before they come back, or even if they ever come back. And I think that is a weakness in that model, just like we saw, because their routine, their rhythm got taken away. They got their church services taken away from them and they fell apart, which is kind of what we're seeing with some adults right now. Yeah. But their faith, with kids.
Would you say their faith identity was in the gathering of the bride of Christ and not Christ himself?
Yes. Yeah. That's.
I'll have to cut that out. Just kidding.
Yeah, that's too good.
That's too much. It's too far. Micah, you've overstepped.
Too early for that. But it is. Are we following Jesus, or are we following our tradition or our comfort or our religious fill-up of the week? One cool thing, just a personal story. Last week, my son Benji, he just turned 6.
Wow.
And I think this
Congratulations,
kind of
Benji.
shows, yeah, he's awesome. And I think this kind of shows what we're talking about. He came to me at breakfast. We get to eat breakfast together every day. And he said, last night when I was falling asleep, I was thinking about all the bullies I'm going to have to deal with in life. And God asked me if I want to be his disciple.
Excuse me?
Yeah. God asked me if I want to follow him. And I said, well, what did you say? Yeah. Follow you.
What do you think I said, Dad?
And that's not something we've been pushing, really.
Yeah.
Like, you need to accept Jesus into your heart or anything. Like, that was between him and Jesus.
Wow.
Like, something happened at bedtime for him. And since then, he's been talking about, I'm a Jesus follower, so I'm going to do this.
Wow.
My brother's being mean to me, but I follow Jesus, so I'm not going to hit him back. I'm like, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been nuts. All without Sunday school. And I'm not taking any credit for it. My wife's amazing, and she probably definitely deserves some credit for it. But I think God can reach us no matter how old or no matter what's going on if we're willing to listen. So it's
wow.
kind of cool. Yeah.
Well, that is a perfect place to stop, I think. And you know, just that story is amazing. Okay. I think that's incredible. I think it's awesome because I think one of the things we've been concentrating on, one of the things I've been trying to concentrate at Two Cities Church is helping people understand they need a personal relationship with Jesus. You can't just rely on what I say.
Right.
You know, you need to have your own devotion. You need to have your own relationship. You need to be able to connect with God outside, you know, anything I give you.
Right. And it's even more than just reading the Bible every day.
Yes.
Living the life, like being a follower of the way, right? Where that is your lifestyle and it radiates or explodes out of you.
So
like,
good.
You are bringing Jesus wherever you go. And we've always said that, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody said, oh, church isn't just an event on Sunday. And then you took the event away and people really lost it.
Lost their minds and are still losing their minds.
Some are.
Losing their minds. I'll give you one story here and then we'll shut it down.
Okay. This has been a really dangerous conversation, by the way.
This whole thing has been the danger zone, just letting you know.
Yeah.
People are going to watch this and go, these two have lost their minds.
Yeah, you need a warning.
Yeah. I'll just put it, most dangerous episode ever. That'll just be the title. With Jon Silva, hashtag for Salem. So I think an interesting thing that's happening here in our community, I know we're not involved in this at all, but there are a couple of churches, you know, that have sort of refused. They've done civil disobedience. We'll call it that.
Right.
Civil disobedience, right? They believe their rights are taken away and they need to fight for them. I'm just trying to stay in my lane and not worry about what they're doing and just do what I'm supposed to do. But an interesting thing has happened where one of them has been meeting in a historic theater in an area of town that is not typically church friendly, right? So praise God, there's people trying to reach that area. Great.
Right.
However, the theater has come up for sale and the church has been in process of buying it. The entire neighborhood has risen up against them. All the businesses, everybody. The city has cited them for not following the guidelines. Now we have a mayor that is a man of faith, former police chief even, and he wants the best for this church, but he also needs to serve the entire community, and so he's trying to encourage them to move another direction. He's trying to provide avenues for them to take to help serve everybody, and they're just not having it. And so another church in the area that has also been involved in civil disobedience and continued to meet indoors. You know, I don't know to what extent they're not doing other things. They have invited this church to come use their facilities for an event they were having this past weekend. So there was a concert or something. And I have been off Twitter for a long time, but I was encouraged recently to go back on and just start, you know, engaging with some people on there. And I saw all these people that I had followed Fresno hashtags and things a long time ago.
Yeah.
And they're all railing against this church churches in general, how they're inconsiderate, how they don't care about what's going on. They just want, their thing. And I'm like, man, there's no real way for me to enter in this conversation, really. But I feel bad for all the sides. Like, I'm like, it doesn't have to be this hard.
It doesn't, man.
We don't have to have this animosity towards one another. And it's breaking my heart a little bit that this is happening.
Well, what does Andy say about the only reason people should reject Christianity, right?
Yeah, the cross should be the most offensive thing.
Yeah. And we haven't made it that. So,
yeah.
I'm with you, man. I wish I had an answer for that. I don't. And what's fun is when some people in your church see other churches doing that and be like, well, why aren't you doing that?
Yeah.
Like,
for the most part,
it's not us.
I had a couple people ask me that, and I'm like, hey, I think it's our call to continue doing what we're doing. If God calls another piece of his body to do something else, that's between him and them.
Right.
But for me, I can only do what I believe is our call, and this is our call. So,
yep.
So continuing not to meet in person is our call.
Yeah, man. Way to be courageous. And it's not just because you want a Sunday off, is it?
No. I don't get a Sunday off. I get different rhythm in my Sundays, for sure, which is easier on my family for absolute sureness. But I don't get the day off, and I'm working towards it still during the week. Yep. So, oh man, this has been a fun conversation, a ridiculously dangerous conversation. We're all heretics here, so
that's right. Heretics for Jesus. Is that a thing?
Oh gosh.
Can we get tattoos?
So oh man, someone will brand us. Someone will gladly put a brand on us, I'm sure. You have abandoned the gathering. No,
we just got a Facebook post.
It just looks different.
Yeah, that we're probably going to hell for what we teach. So that's fun.
Have they ever heard a message?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it was our little ad we do for our episodes, and so it had a blurb, and we're going to hell for that. Yeah.
Those are fun.
Yeah, good stuff.
What they don't realize is that they are serving the algorithm when they comment and engage.
So we interact with it, and so they comment back, and it helps the algorithm.
They think they're doing something really heroic in saying something like that, and then what they don't realize is more people see it because they commented on it, which gives. And
I've told our social media person that we need to be the Wendy's of churches in Salem right now. We're gonna get some snark.
The Wendy's. Oh, wow. All right, man. Well, thanks for hanging out with me.
Yeah. Thank you.
God bless you guys. What you're trying to do in Salem. I hope you guys continue to find the next steps. Maybe you're not going to find the end answer of what things look like, and maybe there is never an end answer. I think that's the thing we need to be. We need to be comfortable in the tension of thinking that possibly we will never have this is the absolute destination of where we end up, because we may have to continue to change and innovate until the day we die. So let's be open to it. That sounds very uncomfortable, but let's be open to it.
That should be your opening blurb. That's good.
There we go, man. All right, man. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, as Jon said, this was probably one of the most dangerous conversations I've had on this podcast. And there's some ideas that maybe are out there, but maybe they're not as out there as you think. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that it was beneficial for you. If it was, please give it a like, comment, let me know you enjoyed it. And if you want to support this channel and what I'm doing online to help resource and spread these learnings together, please go to the link below at Buy Me a Coffee, and you can buy me a coffee. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.